Okay, hello again. So I'm going to do a breakdown of the last track I posted. I will break it down part by part and break down orchestration and a little bit of composition. So now I'll play the track once, just in case you haven't heard it, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so let's get started from the very beginning. Okay, so for this part, let's first look at the melody on the very first part. We just have a pan flute, a little bit of a choir doubling it, and a normal flute legato. And that's all we have on the melody together at the beginning. So if we solo this, okay, and under that, which is actually the first thing that I put down, is this viola motor here. And over that viola motor, there is also this accents on the marimba. So all together, and the percussion here, just simple percussion, all together. And then in this next part, the motor keeps the same, the viola and the marimba keeps doing the same thing, and the melody keeps being the same things, but the violins 1 double the melody 2 in this part, and the cellos take the bass line on the bottom with the marcato cellos. Okay, so let's just hear this first part of this next part. So first let's hear all of the background elements and all the rhythm background elements. This is the viola from before, but the harp is joining, and the flute doubles the harp an octave up, and the cello has a slightly different rhythmic pattern, but it just adds to the rhythm from before. So cello, viola, harp, piccolo flute. Okay, and over this, the only thing left that we add is the bass and the melody. And everything else is in the rhythmic patterns. Okay, so if we listen to it all. And the melody is, this is a bassoon and clarinets. And this is a violins 1 and a flute and a pan flute, same as before, just stronger on the violins 1. And in this part, you hear the choir is coming in with just one note harmonization. So it's just, I think, around a third down. It's just doubling on the note of the melody and another note on the third down, just to harmonize the melody a little bit. And you see the arpeggio in the harp and in the flute is changing this middle note here, and it's actually doing the same note as the bass. So I decided to just follow and reinforce the notes of the bass in this arpeggio movement that we have here, just so that it doesn't stay static the whole time, especially when the bass comes in and the chords move around a bit. And here it just does a final little flourish just to signal the end of this section. And then we get into the next part, which is kind of like the bridge section. And if you notice in this melody, I'm using the same rhythmic, really the same pattern for the melodies, just in different notes, and it's moving to different chords, but it still feels like the same melody, just doing something different. So if you notice. So let's break down this part. The first thing I came up with for this part is this piano part. I literally just played this in because I was looking for a bridge to just change, to refresh it before I go back to the melody in its normal form. So I just played this in, played it, and then adjusted it, quantized it a bit roughly, but here it is. Okay, and once I had this, the first thing I did is I added this solo cello. And then I also added the actual cello section, so I doubled the solo cello with the cello section. And then I went and added some string ensemble chords. It just starts feeling more and more orchestral, right? And I think I forgot, yes, there is also a clarinet. It's hard to hear, but it's just doubling the cellos on the melody, just to thicken that. There's some issues there, but they're not noticeable in the full version. But anyway, so you notice that here the cello doesn't follow the melody to the top, right? It stays down here. So what I did is I took at this point I took the violins 1 and the violins 1 are here, and they come in here, and they follow they instead of going down like the cello does, they climb all the way up and they pick up the melody at the top. So they do this little climb here together. This kind of come out of the chords, and they pick up the melody here. So the melody is moving from the cellos to the violins. So if we listen to it, okay. So that's a good way to pass the melody from one section to another. It's just you have the other section sneak its way in before the point where you want them to change, and then the other section that was doing the melody can just move to a different note and just hold it, and where that section is now holding the note, your new section built its way up, snuck its way in slowly, and then they take the melody. And that's really satisfying for the ear, because you're like, it's just a good way to change things up. So yeah, and then the last thing I added was the choir. So when there is this really long hold here, so you hear it, I added this, the choir comes in and does this little descending counterline, and also sets up it sets the next part up, because in the next part the choir is gonna be quite prevalent, so it's also a good way to introduce it for later. So now we can get into this final part here, and I will let's start with this section here. The second one is quite similar, but I'll just go through those changes later. So let's listen to this part now. We'll first take a look at all the elements that give the momentum. So we have the harp, just like before. It's just doing the momentum is slightly different away, but it's the same triplet arpeggio. Just the accent is on a different note than before. And then to that I added violins 1 and violins 2 shorts. So the harp is right under here, and then we have the violins 2 and octave down. So the violins 1 and 2 are doing this arpeggio in octaves. And if you see, I used the, you will hear it in the here. See this modulation here in the shorts, it changes the length of the shorts. So for some reason when I was playing it, it felt good to have them play longer short in alternating long and longer short and long shorts. It's not even fully accurate, but it's good. It gives it some it gives it more momentum and variation. So to that, let's add the percussion. It's just a really long pedal, right? And in this part, it almost never changes. It really only changes like on the final cadence here. So it's just a nice background pedal. So we looked at the motor under, and now let's look at everything else. Let's just focus in on the melodies for a second before I put everything together. So the melody is the choir here, and the piccolo is doubling an octave up on the melody with some slight variation. The flute, the 3 flutes are also on the melody, and the trumpet there, back there is the trumpet. There's just the intro of the trumpet in the part before. That's just an answer from the choir, while the trumpet instead goes up. Let's add in the brass and the basses. So for basses we have bass and cello marcatos in octaves. That's what they are almost always doing in powerful sections like this. The cellos on top and the double bass, same note, an octave down. Answer from the choir, the bass also joins in that pattern, just because we have a hole there and then a little answer from the bass. So if we add in our motor and our percussion, so basically everything, it sounds like this. Happening here, everything is the same in this next part, but we have these how to say, whimsical rhythmic melody that just keeps going for this whole second part, and it gives movement in the background. It joins the rhythmic pedal in the strings, so if I put them together, they work together. this is what's giving the momentum, and of course together with the percussion, so it's weird all together. So same concept as before, and what's also adding to the momentum is in the cello and the bass. I do have some rhythmic stabs, so you'll hear. For this kind of thing, I really like the marcatos in CSS. The marcato patch is really good to have this bass line with some rhythmic stabs, let's say, accents in it. Okay, and this is the end of this part, and then we have, remember this pattern from the end of the section right before. I just repeat this pattern. Everything else is the same, and I just repeat this pattern 4 times before it ends. So if we put everything else back in, it sounds like this. And you see here, this is just the flutes in staccatos. They are just doubling the whimsical, how to say, shire whistle staccato line that I showed you before. They're doing the same thing an octave down, just to thicken it up. So that, I think that's it. And sorry about this final part. I think it's a little bit hard to break down, but yeah, it's just the 3 things, right? You have the melody, you have the chordal and the bass, and then you have this rhythmic motor elements in the background. So yeah, that's it for this one, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope it was useful, and I'll see you next time.